Welcome to I Love Stocks. Today I want to discuss an update on my last video on Tesla. Tesla that I put a video out on last weekend on the Sunday and talked about how I was going to trade it this week and what I expected out of it, not knowing what kind of news is going to come out or how hard the bears were going to try to attack it. So first I want to mention that we do have a Twitter page. If you have a Twitter account, key in I Love Stocks and find our Twitter page and hit that follow button there, and you can get updates from Miss Vegas that posts it in here on a daily basis. So let's go also back to we also have our stock twitch page, stock twits page, which we're really fond of. And we also have our little YouTube channel here. I appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button and ring that bell for future updates. In fact, Miss Vegas did another video, I think her second one here on cheddar flow. She has one right here, part 2 and part 1. So that's always good to be watching. And we post videos in here on the weekdays and especially on our Sunday report, which is right here. And we talked about stocks that we're going to be watching coming up here. And look at Beyond Meat. You might see a good bounce on it coming up here pretty soon. Next week or probably next week. Remember, we have a 3-day weekend off, so enjoy your weekend and drive safe. And let's go ahead and go straight to Tesla itself. You know, I'm very fond of Tesla. I have the solar roof, we have solar panels, we have the car, we have the Cybertruck. So this is something that you want to keep on watch. Here's the website. You can check them out all the time. Let's go straight to the news. First, we had this little offering here. We had a $2 billion offering that news came in this week that had $2 billion in added shares to capitalize on the Tesla surge. Well, I know that Elon's going to buy $10 million worth of the stock, and then board member of Oracle, Larry Ellison, which everybody knows, is going to buy him 1 million shares of it. So they're counting on this stock to run back up. And I'm kind of glad they put this offering out. The fact that they will need that extra cash to open up that Germany plant and to start building these Cybertrucks. You know, they got a lot of orders out on these Cybertrucks, and that's going to, but there's a page, I'll put this link in the bottom of the description down there in the comment section. And that's going to be the link that'll tell you a little bit. You can read up about what they expect the offering's going to do. But I think they want to fund this Cybertruck right here, and I probably end up getting me one here in a couple of years after they get all the kinks out of it. I'd like to have one because I'm kind of like riding that up down the beach in that sand. I think that could handle that pretty fast. And I heard these electric cars are very strong. That's another reason. And plus the lifetime of the battery, which I talked about in the last video. So the offering, and then another thing that kind of caught the eyes of the bears, you know, how to survive a bear attack. Now this is according to science, and I'm definitely going to put a book out on how the bears try to try to psych you out thinking it's going to go down, and you know, again, they were surprised as the stock ran up. So always remember, I'm always trying to figure out how to survive a bear attack according to science against the Tesla stock and also with Bind. Bind's pulled back. I think it's going to get ready to bounce too. So let's get back on the truck itself. And also they had a recall yesterday, if you didn't hear about it, of 15,000 cars, and I think it just had minor issues with a few nuts and bolts that can be replaced. So I don't think it was that big of an issue. 15,000 cars when you hear General Motors calling back 2 million cars at one time, or 300,000 cars at one time because of a screwy ignition lock that killed a bunch of people. Or, you know, a lot of people are still fond of General Motors, which I think is probably one of the worst traded companies out there right now. Talk about fake bookkeeping. So we're going to talk about the stock right now. I really like Tesla. Last week I talked about it staying in this little blue channel. I wanted to keep it in this blue channel after it had that big run. I knew it was going to get shorted at the top here because the bears were going to attack it, and you had to let them have their own way. And you could tell by that first knife that we had ready to close. And then the next day it just pulled on back. and this is where I developed that little support level once it hit that. So that's where I wanted to keep it in. And I had a little pivot point area right in here that I thought was probably going to be the pivot point and then a resistance level. And I said if we broke past that resistance, which it did Monday, that was a gift. And I want to repeat that. I said that was a gift. And when that had that engulfing candle pre-market and it pulled back a little bit to support and had another engulfing candle, that was the time to exit the trade, telling by the big wicks of the stock. And it did pull back to that bottom of that pivot point line. Now I already had this pivot point line drew in last week, and on that Monday when it came out, it pulled right back to that pivot point, and that was my solid support. And I was saying, you know, I want to keep it in this channel, and I want to keep it in this channel. And as you can see, it kept in that channel. It had that big pop, and then it pulled back right to that little pivot point area, which was my first support, right at 754.74, exactly as I called it to be. And then she ran up and she hit the top of that pivot point again. And you can see this on the previous video if you want to look back and watch it. It's pretty good too. I kind of liked how I put that video out. And it did hit that pivot point area, hit that resistance line, and that was a hard resistance. This is already after we had that breakout and that pullback to that bottom line support. So in this area, it's still a pivot point to me. And then we had the breaking ascending triangle, and it just kind of pulled back and then kind of broke out a little bit above it. As you can see right here, we did kind of break out a little bit, but it didn't want to go up and cap up on that top of that resistance level, and it pulled on back. And then we had that news. That offering came out, and the recall. They thought their bears were going to be real hot on this trade, and it did pull back. I mean, it did pull back. I didn't see it coming, but it stayed in my channel, and that was very important to me. It did break out of resistance, out of support level, which gave it a pretty good little buy. And then when we woke up this morning, we had it take off. And here we go again. We're meeting at this top again. So I was telling the room, I said we're at a hard resistance up here at 813, but anything beyond 793.91 was a gift. The same thing I said in the last video on Sunday. I said that was a gift. So if you got in this trade and you listened to what I was saying, you would have got out of that trade and took that profit. And it did pull back to that support level. And it had, oh, heck, every bit of a $60 drop. And I said you could scalp this with the bears, and always embrace them bears because they're giving you volatility. And I think they kind of have a little psychological problem when it comes to shorting Tesla, because they just get into this groove where anything that breaks out, they're going to short it, But Tesla's a different case. Tesla, to me, it's already a 5X company, and I do believe it'll be 10X, which is already almost is if it goes up to $1,000. It'll be 10X from $100. And I've been calling this trade out ever since it was down at $50. I said, this is the one you want to hold for long. And then we finally had this year, finally the year that it broke out. And 4 years ago, I said it was going to go to 600. And that was when it was probably right around the 300 level, if I remember right. But she has pulled back. And then we had that scare yesterday with the offering and the recall, which is only 15,000 cars, which were back 2016 models. So she did bounce up today, real nice, aggressive. I mentioned it in the room. I didn't get in the trade because I was in so many others, and I'm not the kind of guy that can sit there and hold 10 trades at a time. I try to carry 1 or 2 trades at the most, maybe swing 3 overnight and take my profit and run and wait for the pullbacks and get back in it the next day. Well, I didn't get in this morning, which I should have right out of the gate because I called the breakout, and she ran all the way up from this low level of 835.52 all the way back up to that resistance line up here, and we didn't break that resistance line on the candles. So that was time to take profit. I was telling the room, might as well take profit, but the news is good, and the news, it still stayed in the channel most of the week. Now, if this thing decides to pull back again, I don't know if I'd hold it over for the 3-day weekend, but I am still very bullish on this trade. And I'll argue with anybody about this stock. I always say follow the trend and then ride it on up. But we did hit that 813 resistance of this previous high that we had back on Wednesday, I think, or Tuesday, or Monday. Yeah, when we had that Monday breakout and it did pull back. So always keep that in mind that 813.89, anything past 793.91 is a gift. This little section right in here. Now I'm going to pull up this 10-day chart again, and I'm going to show you that I had a low support on this stock just in case it did break that trend, that channel, right a low of 697.17, that it could drop down into this area right here, and this would be a very strong buy to jump in this trade because the options would be down pretty good. But we never did get down there. We did break down below that trend right here last week, and that's where I drew this trend line. I said, I want to keep it right there. And this is on a 30-minute, 10-day chart. And I think I was charting it up on the 20-day. Let's take a look at that 20-day real fast. We've had a real nice run. I mean, from 492.17 in a matter of up 100% in a matter of almost 90% in a matter of 2 weeks. And now we're consolidating this channel. And I want to keep it in this channel. Anything below that's going to be a very strong buy. Remember, the bears are always going to attack you on this stock. Any chance they get. Any kind of news, they're trying to bring in Mulger or whatever his name is now, this billionaire that hangs around with Buffett. And they're not getting into the big part of it. He's saying that he wouldn't buy it at this price, nor would he sell it at this price. And they missed out on a great trade. I tried to message old Warren Buffett back when this thing was at $100 to buy it. And, he didn't do it. Just imagine if he'd have put $1 billion in that stock down at $100 and run it up to 900. I think this thing's going to go a lot higher here in the next 2 to 3 years if we keep Trump as president. If not, this thing can pull back and crash pretty hard. And I'm thinking maybe back to that $300 area. But for right now, I'm still very bullish on the trade, and I'm just following the trends. And this is a great stock to trade on the trend. Just catch it open, give it about a half hour to figure out what it's going to do, and then pop right in the trade. And that's what I explained in that last video. So let's keep it in this channel right here. Anything past, like I've said before, at 793.91. Now this thing can jump up into this new section if the momentum picks up, but tomorrow's Friday. We got a 3-day weekend. I'm still have concerns about the coronavirus, and that'll always linger in the back of my head until I start seeing the rate of infectionness fall down and the death rates start to kind of curve down too. I mean, it's not looking good at all, especially this week, and we've always got to keep that in mind. So low support is going to be in this channel, and that's going to be around $700. Pivot point area that I want to keep it in is around that 773. Let's bring this up to a 5-day so I can see it a little bit better. Okay, we got a 754 pivot point. I want to see that hold. Anything below that's going to be a strong buy in this little channel. Anything above 778, you're starting to get into resistance levels. And then everything past 793.91, I'm going to still stick with that. It's going to be a gift. We are forming a descending pattern here after hours. What I mean by descending, we have lower highs, and we do have a flat line right here. So this thing can pull back to this support level here at 778.65. That's going to be your first support, and then your second one's going to be right down here, right around the 754.74 area. If they decide to go ahead and chomp on this a little bit tomorrow, and the volume is kind of slow on the trade. But the resistance to break is still going to be this 813.89 area. And you got to build, like I said, on the 30-minute chart. Let me pull this 30-minute back up again. These candles bases, you've got to break above that for 30 minutes. If it does that, you could go up to higher highs. If not, you're going to go ahead and pull on back. But here after hours, we're at 801 even, down $3 from the close. And just keep this in mind. Low support. I don't want to see, try not to see it go any lower than 754.74 to keep it in the pivot point. Your first support below that one is going to be this 732.35. Could be a pretty strong buy. And then bring it back up to resistance level, which is going to be the 778.65. And then anything after 793 is a gift for right now. And we're in the gift stage right here. Now, if this thing starts to bounce up and break this resistance of 813.89, this can go a lot higher. Remember, I'm always bullish on Tesla, and always remember there is a science of how to survive a bear attack. And this is I Love Stocks.